the song, never gonna do the same for you.
What's up, guys? It's Donna here.
And Holly.
And you're listening to Teaser Talk.
On switch, turn the song, never gonna do the same. You hit the on switch, turn the song, never gonna do the same for you. With these power lights.
2019 was another awesome year for Teaser Talk. While we didn't find our furry that we were looking for at the beginning of season 3, we did have amazing episodes from so many different artist interviews to random rants between Donna and I. Season 3 was a fun one. And we thought with this year ending, we would love to look back on 2019 and highlight our top 5 most listened to podcast episodes of season 3. So let's talk about our 5th most popular episode, the interview with Frank Zumo from Sum 41. Before this interview, I had heard of Frank and knew of him, but I didn't really know much about him. And I was blown away with his passion for helping out the youth in a positive way, and just the way he uses his platform to give back to his community is just, I don't know, amazing to say the least. So here's a snippet of my personal favorite part of this interview.
I have to just make like I've been here the whole time and make them feel the support and all that. And, you know, that's kind of like the reason why I was able to get all these gigs was like I got a reputation within the industry of being like, you know, you're in an emergency or you need a drummer last minute, you know, Zumo will come in and nail this and, you know, not have any issues. And that's something I worked really hard at. I mean, I spent my entire childhood in my parents' basement playing to my favorite records from front to back, you know, learning all these different styles to going to, you know, drum school, like private drum school instead of traditional college and stuff. It's, you know, something I worked really, really hard at. And then like to be in Sum 41, you know, you're talking about learning a band's entire catalog, because we do deep cuts. We'll throw in a lot of shit, learning, you know, how Derek is as a front man, to know his body language, to support him when we're doing all different kinds of, you know, breakdowns and intros and outros and whatnot. And, you know, replacing a key member to be, you know, big shoes to fill and stepping in. So there was a lot of, you know, pressure. And you just got to come in and do your thing, you know, not let the mental part ever mess with you, because the second it does, it's like you're done. You know, it's just anything. It's not good. You have to, you know, go in and just say, I'm going to be me. I'm going to do what I've practiced my whole life for, and just be yourself and be true. And the fans are going to, you know, they're going to feel that. They're going to feel the realness. If you're going in there and fakeness and shit, you don't get far doing that. People see right through that bullshit. So, you know, it's been, you know, that's part of my journey, you know, everything. And, you know, now even being, you know, going on, you know, I've been doing the last year like a whole new like solo project, and that's been pretty amazing, you know, from doing all that stuff with the kids and all the stuff that inspired me to just to, you know, create music on my own and work with amazing artists, DJs, songwriters, producers, and work on, you know, a whole like solo project that's been so amazing. You know, and even working with these DJs I've been working with, you know, Keizo and Cruella, being in part of that whole world and, you know, being almost like a musical director for, you know, Keizo and all that, that's been amazing too. And I love to challenge myself and do so many things, to just keep me on my toes and to play so many different styles and, you know, and just drum, you know, it's just who I am. And it's just incredible to be able to do this and at this capacity.
Frank's a pretty rad guy, right? Okay, so up next for the number 4 spot is going to be the interview with Eden Boy from 616. Now, on this one, I was super excited because I'm a huge him fan, and I was so sad to see the end of Love Metal. Or that's what I thought until I saw Bam Margera promoting a band called 616, which was the first time I had heard of him, so I immediately fell in love with it. This episode was also the first time we've ever played a song by the artist that we were interviewing, which was super fun, and I'm definitely looking forward to doing that more of with artists and kind of doing some premiere music on Teaser Talk. My absolute favorite part of this interview, though, was the story on how he got connected with Bam. So let's check that out.
It was just crazy to see. I mean, like, you guys got exposed to at least 2 million followers, like, instantly and then repeatedly. So how did you get connected with Bam?
Well, I always looked up to the guy, and he's actually the guy who introduced me to the band Him. Like I was watching the CKY movies and stuff when I was younger. I was in the process of making an album. I love metal music, and I was in my last year, senior year in high school. I wanted to wrap the album up and get my music heard by him. So I said, fuck it. I signed myself out of high school. I jumped on a plane to Pennsylvania with my album, flew into Philadelphia, and stayed at like some shitty, rugged hotel. Woke up in the hotel the next day and walked like 8 miles to his parents' house with like a box of CDs and a bunch of shirts and merch and stuff. Because I thought, if I just mail him an album, it's going to get tossed with the rest. I was like, if I just fly out and go out there and make sure he got this album and knew that this kid from Milwaukee flew all the way to Pennsylvania to give him this album, I was like, it has 10 times better chances of getting heard. So I did that. He ended up hearing my music and loving it. And I ended up getting a call from Bali, Australia one day telling me to jump on a tour bus with him.
That's insane. So, when you go there with this box, how were you greeted at the door? Like, I'm just curious as how all that went down.
His Aunt Booth, who I'm really close with, ended up answering the door, and she was like, yeah, hi, who are you? I was like, my name's Matt Lidwin. I make music, and I came here to drop off my CDs for BAM, and she's just like, oh, he's not home. He's on like vacation or whatever. And she was like, oh, come on in. So I came in the house and Ape and Phil were there, and I was like, oh, hi guys. And they were like the nicest people you could ever imagine. Like, they're just like, oh, do you want a soda? Would you like a sandwich? And I was like, wow, like you guys are fucking sweet as hell. And they ended up putting on my CD and like jamming it while I was in there. And they were just like, yeah, this is good music and whatnot. And I was like, just blown away that all happened. And the fact that they actually made sure BAM got to hear my CD was like the best ever. They're like that whole family. They are like the biggest sweethearts. They're very authentic for sure. And I think it's amazing how like literally you took that leap of faith. You hopped on that airplane. I mean, shit. People they're reluctant to even like DM this guy, let alone, walk to his house to give him CDs. So kudos to you. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, but it ended up working out. We became like really good friends through it all. And then he was like, I want you to do this song by this band called the Pussy Bats one night while we were just chilling in his castle. He was like, it's called Dance with the Devils. When you go back to Milwaukee, record it and then send it to me. And I did it. And I sent it to him. He was like, this fucking kid. He was just like, this song is the best fucking song ever. He loved it. And he was like, it's going to go on my Eavesdroppers album. Like, I don't know. A lot of crazy shit has happened.
That's pretty crazy, right? So next up for our third most listened to episode is going to be the interview with the dual Wolfgang von Frankenstein. So I was warned ahead of time from his publicist that this was a man of few words, and not to get offended if he just gave yes or no answers to my questions. So of course I loved the challenge. Since Donna wasn't able to co-host this one with me, I was super excited to have on one of my longest friends from elementary school to tag team this one with me. So the most memorable part of this interview with him was him telling his story on how he how he made the choice to be vegan and what made him become of that lifestyle. So here's a snippet of his story when he talks about it.
And it's common knowledge by now that you're vegan. And I'm kind of interested how long and what prompted the lifestyle change.
It's going to be 6 years in January. And it was my girlfriend. When I was first dating her, she came to New York and we had to get her back to a plane. She was going somewhere and we were rushing around. We were starving, and she said to me, if we don't find me something to eat, we'll find you something to eat. And I was like, fuck that, I will never eat anything in front of you that you're not comfortable with, and I never did. And then it was an easy transition because I was only eating 2 things that weren't vegan, was chicken breast and whey protein. So, and then she, made me watch a bunch of videos and schooled me on what it's doing to the planet and all the horrible things that people do to these animals, and it's just, and how sick you get from eating them. You can't eat them, you know what I mean? Yeah. They're all full of shit. They're all full of hormones and drugs and antibiotics, and they're all sick.
So I was definitely pressed on not only how he had an open mind to such a drastic lifestyle to choose to live, but really on how he never let his girlfriend watch him eat. Like, he completely said, I'm never going to let you sit there and watch me eat. So guys, take note on that, and that's how you treat a girl. The second most listened to podcast is one of my all-time favorites, the Jess Margera Invasion. Jess was the second guest ever on Teaser Talk back in 2017, and he's one of my favorite artists that we've interviewed. I just love how down-to-earth he is and how easygoing he really is. At every CKY that we've caught them at, the guys make time to hang out with their fans and just really be authentic and just chill. For his second time on the show, Donna and I had figured out that we'd have some fun with this and play a little game called 80s Rock Jam or Porn Soundtrack. It was a challenge for a title that Donna's mom had actually held, that she had won season 1 on episode 10, Porn Soundtrack or 80s Rock Jam. So it was super fun. I'm not going to spoil it for you guys if you want it or not. You guys need to go back on teasertalk.com and find that and listen to it. However, here's a fun snippet from the episode. When Jess was down 3 and there was something about the music that gave it away that it was definitely not an 80s rock jam.
So, Jess, you are currently down 3.
Oh, man.
So
getting down to the wire here.
You've got to really get rolling on these, because I think you can only miss 2 more before you are not the world champ.
Okay.
Pressure is on. All right, let's see what you think about this one.
Let's do this thing. That cheesy keyboard has to be porn.
You are correct.
Yes.
It's like that dreamy, like, keyboard patch that's like, yeah, synonymous with 80s porn.
And I wonder how, like, that made it into it. Like, who was the person that was like, man, we need something. We're missing something. It's a keyboard.
Yeah.
Put it in here.
Okay, drum roll please. Coming in at number 1 is the interview with Lex, the lead singer of Three Teeth. So this was one of the top live interviews. That was one of my favorites I've done, because this interview was actually conducted at like 2 a.m. on the stage that they had just played hours ago on. We had cold beers in our hands and our feet dangling off stage, just chatting. Three Teeth is another one of those bands that literally just hang out with fans afterwards, and Lex literally spoke to every single fan standing there before our interview, which is why it was done so late. By far, my favorite part of this interview was when Lex talks about how we all have to have that creative outlet, so let's take a listen.
We're just a bunch of fucking psychos who don't sleep that well because we're doing a lot of shit, so. And everyone's always trying to outdo each other in terms of like the creative gesture and like come up with a concept and create a thing, and like, you know, we're just sort of like if you're not creating, you're probably dying type of thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, it's very impressive. It's a creator die mentality. You know?
It's very impressive.
I oftentimes feel like my happiness as a human being is dictated by my creative output. If I'm not creating, I'm not happy. Yeah. And I think that a lot of people who are depressed in this world is because there's latent creativity. They need to do something. I don't give a fuck if it's basket weaving. I don't give a fuck. Like, just do something. Everyone needs to do something. If you don't have that thing, then you're gonna die. You can't just wake up, go to a shitty job that like you tolerate because you have some people there that you're like, oh, I have a relationship with them, they're cool, blah, blah, blah. And like, if you don't have the thing that you create and you're alienated from the final product of what you're creating, then you will die inside.
Needless to say, Lex is definitely on a whole nother level, and I love it. So that is it. That's our top 5 most listened to podcast episodes of 2019 for Teaser Talk. We are so grateful for all the love, support, and listens on the podcast. And we cannot wait for more interviews and episodes in 2020. Thank you all for tuning in. We hope you have the most rad new year, and until next time, keep rocking.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Teaser Talk.
We look forward to seeing you next Teaser Talk Tuesday. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss it.
Make sure to follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Teaser Talk. This way we can keep up with you guys until the next episode.